Good morning. We're going to continue and actually be finishing up the Gospel of Luke, and then moving into the book of Acts. So let's pick up where we left off. We were looking at Luke 23, verse 55, and then we're going to go into Luke 24. Chapter 3, verse 55, 23, verse 55. The women who had come with Jesus from Galilee followed Joseph. This is Joseph of Arimathea, one of the council religious leaders who was not in favor of how they treated Jesus. He believed in Jesus, and he was the one who requested to Pilate to be able to have Jesus' body taken down from the cross to prepare him for burial. So the women are following Joseph, and they see where the tomb. They saw the tomb and how his body was laid in it. Then they went home and prepared spices and perfumes, but they rested on the Sabbath in obedience to the command. Chapter 24. On the first day of the week, very early in the morning, the women took the spices they had prepared and went to the tomb. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb. But when they entered, they did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. While they were wondering about this, suddenly two men in clothes that gleamed like lightning stood before them, or beside them. In their fright, the women bowed down with their faces to the ground. But the men said to them, "Why do you look for the living among the dead? He is not here, he is risen. Remember how he told you while he was still with you in Galilee. The Son of Man must be delivered over to the hand of sinners, be crucified, and on the third day be raised again." Then they remembered his words. So it's obvious, right? When he says, "Why are you looking for the living among the dead?" Well, that's because they still thought he was dead. You go to a cemetery to look for those who have died. And but what the angel's trying to communicate to them is that you should know that he's not dead. Remember what he has told you, right? That he was going to rise again, that he was going to come back from the dead. And then they remembered. So then they run and tell the other disciples, right? When they came back from the tomb, they told all these things to the 11 and to all the others. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary, the mother of James, and the others with them who told this to the apostles. But they did not believe the women because their words seemed to them like nonsense, right? Again, they're still saying this doesn't make any sense, which is incredible. As much as, I can't throw them under the bus, because how often do I also doubt, right? But even after seeing Jesus raise Lazarus from the dead, they still have a hard time believing. So Peter, however, got up and ran to the tomb. Bending over, he saw the strips of linen lying by themselves, and he went away wondering to himself what had happened. Now, the reason this is important is because when it tells us in the Gospel of John that Peter and John both go running to the tomb to see if what the lady said was true. And John, actually being younger and faster, outruns Peter and gets to the tomb first, but doesn't go in. But he's able to see the linen and the strips of linen there. And then Peter gets there and runs straight in, and he sees what the ladies had seen. Because remember, it said that they followed Joseph and they saw where he had been buried and how he was laid, how he was wrapped. And then it says that they see the linens that he was wrapped in right where they were placed. That's what it says in John, lying in the same place. So, okay, so let's just say first here, that's part of what is happening. Here Jesus some said, well, Jesus, either the body was stolen or he really wasn't dead. And he just, woke up and somehow was able to move the stone all by himself and get out of the tomb. Okay, so a couple of things, let's just look real quickly at what happens here in verse 13. Now, that same day, two of them were going to the village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking with each other about everything that had happened. And as they walked and discussed these things with each other, Jesus himself came up and walked along with them, but they were kept from recognizing him. And he asked them, "What are you discussing together as you walk along?" Okay, so now you have the same day, this is Sunday, Jesus walking with these guys. So if it was a hoax, if Jesus didn't really die, and they thought he was, because remember when they they got to the thieves, they broke the thief's legs, so that the other two that were crucified on each side of Jesus, they broke their knees so that they would die more quickly. When they got to Jesus, they said, well, he's already dead, so they didn't break his legs, which is fulfilling a prophecy where it said not one of his bones would be broken. Now, so then the theory is that Jesus really wasn't dead. So here you got a guy, if he wasn't dead, if he didn't die on the cross and he was just unconscious, you have a man who had been severely flogged and beaten by the Romans, crucified. So he had large metal nails, not little tiny finishing nails. These are big nails that are pierced through his wrist and both of his feet. And then you have a spear go through into his rib cage, puncturing his lung. And he just gets up, and he's able to move this stone out of the way, deal with the two Roman soldiers that are on the other side of the tomb, and then pop up on a stroll with these guys. It's a 7-mile walk to Emmaus, and he's just talking with them and chatting it up with them like nothing, right? So again, this is not the man Jesus who barely escaped death and is now on the very day of his resurrection taking a stroll and chatting with the other disciples. I mean, imagine this guy's walking after having his feet nailed to a cross. There's no way, right? This is the resurrected Jesus that is appearing to these disciples on the road to Emmaus. Also, if he had not risen from the dead, but just come back, woken up, then also the linens that they found in the tomb would not be in the place that they were in. They would be torn open. They wouldn't be nicely lying on the slab. They would be on the floor. I mean, if they came in and they saw the linens still covered in blood because they didn't have time to really prepare Jesus' body, they would have come in and found the linens torn open from the inside out, right? Somebody like, wow, and they're just lying there, kind of like when you tear your clothes off or whatever, you take your clothes off before you get in the shower, you just kind of drop them. At least that's what us men do. They would just be all over the place, the linens. But they don't, if they saw that, they wouldn't be thinking, I wonder what happened. Well, it looks like Jesus got up and got out of the linens. But if you walk in and you see the linens lying in their place, lying on the slab, still wrapped up, but no body. Then the disciples, because it says that John saw and believed, right? Where he's walking away thinking, what does this mean? What could it? Because the linen's all wrapped up, but the body's gone. Remember, the stone was not moved by the angel so that Jesus could walk out. He was already gone. The stone was rolled away so that the disciples could look in. That's why the stone was rolled away. It wasn't so that Jesus could walk out physically, because when he came back, spirit back into his body gone. So I guess we'll stop it there for today. So hope that blesses you and encourages you, and just be praying and sharing and liking. And again, as always, leave any comments that you have, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.